When I moved into Maplewood Estates, I thought I'd finally found peace. The small suburban neighborhood looked perfect. Clean streets, trimmed lawns, and smiling neighbors waving as I drove by. It didn't take long, however, to realize that one of those smiles was more of a warning than a welcome. Her name was Karen Whitmore, the self-appointed guardian of the Homeowners Association. She didn't hold an official position at first, but you wouldn't know that from the way she strutted around with her clipboard, jotting notes about people's trash bins or improperly painted fences. I'd only been in my new house for a week when she knocked on my door for the first time. "Good afternoon, Mr. Thompson," she said, her tone sweet but her eyes sharp. "I couldn't help but notice your garage door doesn't match the HOA color guidelines. You'll need to repaint it beige within 7 days." I stared at her, dumbfounded. The garage door was a neutral gray, and I hadn't even finished unpacking yet. "I didn't know there was a specific color rule," I said politely. "Oh, there are many rules," she replied, smiling tightly. "Don't worry, I'll drop a copy of the HOA handbook in your mailbox. We like to keep the neighborhood uniform." That was the first of many encounters. Over the next few weeks, Karen would appear out of nowhere, sometimes walking her dog, sometimes pretending to check mail, always watching. One evening, she even peered through my front window to make sure my blinds complied with HOA privacy standards. It became clear she wasn't just nosy, she was obsessed with control. And when I started parking my project car, a red 1969 Mustang, inside my garage, things escalated. Karen cornered me at the mailbox one morning. "That car isn't authorized," she snapped. "It's in my garage," I said. "You can't even see it." "That's not the point. Classic cars leak oil. It's a safety hazard." I laughed it off, but deep down, I could tell she wasn't done. A few days later, I began to notice small things out of place. The garage door slightly ajar when I swore I'd closed it, a faint smell of perfume near my tool bench, and once a footprint on the concrete floor. That's when I decided to check my security system, and what I found left me frozen in disbelief. I opened my phone and tapped into my home security app, pulling up the garage camera feed. I'd installed it just a week earlier, mainly for peace of mind while I worked on my Mustang. The footage from the night before loaded slowly, the timestamp flickering across the top of the screen. At first, nothing looked out of place. The garage door was shut, the car was parked where I'd left it, and the motion sensor light flicked on occasionally when a moth fluttered by. But then, around 11:47 p.m., movement. The light popped on, and there she was. Karen, wearing a dark hoodie, carrying a small flashlight, and holding what looked like a notepad. She moved slowly, scanning the shelves, the car, even lifting a tarp to look underneath. My heart pounded as I watched her snoop around like she owned the place. She leaned closer to my Mustang, muttering something I couldn't hear through the camera mic. Then she took out her phone and started snapping pictures. I felt a rush of anger and disbelief. Who breaks into their neighbor's garage for HOA violations? She spent a good 5 minutes inside before leaving, carefully closing the door behind her. If I hadn't checked the footage, I never would have known. I barely slept that night, torn between fury and disbelief. By morning, I decided I needed proof, something undeniable. So I downloaded the footage, made a few copies, and saved it on multiple drives. Around noon, I saw her again, pruning flowers near her driveway like nothing had happened. "Morning, Karen," I called, trying to sound casual. She looked up, forcing a smile. "Oh, good morning, Mr. Thompson. Did you get that garage painted yet?" I almost laughed. "Actually, I've been busy reviewing some footage," I said, emphasizing the word. Her smile faltered for a split second, just long enough for me to see a flicker of panic. That confirmed it. Later that day, I called the HOA office. The woman who answered, Linda, sounded sympathetic but hesitant. "Karen doesn't technically work for us," she admitted. "She's enthusiastic about enforcement. We've had a few complaints." "Complaints?" I said. "I've got video of her breaking into my property." There was a long silence. "Sir," Linda finally said, "if that's true, you should probably call the police." I hung up, took a deep breath, and dialed 911. That was the moment I decided this wasn't just about a nosy neighbor anymore. This was about justice. The police arrived that same evening. 2 officers, calm and professional. I showed them the footage on my laptop, every second of it. They watched closely, leaning forward as Karen's face came into view under the motion light. "That's pretty clear," one of them said. "You're saying she doesn't have permission to be in your garage?" "Not even close," I replied. "She's part of the HOA, or at least thinks she is. She's been harassing me for weeks." The officer nodded and took a few notes. "We'll need a copy of the footage, and we'll have a word with her." When they crossed the street to her house, I stood by my window, watching. Karen opened the door in her usual floral blouse and that same fake smile she always wore. But when the officers started talking, her posture changed, shoulders stiff, arms crossed, face red. She pointed toward my house several times, clearly trying to defend herself. After about 15 minutes, the officers returned. "She claimed she was doing a routine HOA inspection," one said, clearly trying not to laugh. "Says she thought you had dangerous chemicals in your garage." I couldn't believe it. "She broke in after midnight. What kind of inspection is that?" The officer sighed. "We advised her that entering private property without consent is trespassing. She's lucky you're not pressing full charges yet." That "yet" stuck with me. The next morning, I woke up to find a letter taped to my door. The HOA logo was printed across the top. Inside it read, "Dear Mr. Thompson, it has come to our attention that you are harboring a vehicle that does not meet HOA safety and appearance standards. Please remove or repair it within 5 days to avoid fines. Sincerely, HOA Compliance Committee, Acting Chair Karen Whitmore." My jaw dropped. She doubled down after getting caught on camera. I scanned the letter, smirking when I saw her signature. Then I opened my laptop and attached the video file to an email addressed to the entire show board. My message was simple. "Before I comply with any HOA demands, I suggest you review this footage and reconsider. Who's in charge of compliance?" By the next morning, chaos erupted. 3 board members called me directly, shocked and apologetic. "We had no idea she'd done this," one said. "We'll handle her." But Karen wasn't done yet. That evening, she showed up on my doorstep. Furious, her face red, her voice trembling. "You made a big mistake," she hissed. "You'll regret this." Karen's words echoed in my head. "You'll regret this." But this time I wasn't intimidated. I'd had enough of her power games and I wasn't backing down. "Karen," I said calmly, stepping out onto the porch, "the only one who's going to regret anything is you. The footage is already in multiple places. If anything happens to me or my property, the police will see it immediately." She froze, her mouth tightening. For a second, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear. Then she spun around and stormed off, muttering about people who don't respect the HOA. The next few days were tense. I barely saw her outside, though her blinds twitched often enough to remind me she was still watching. Meanwhile, the HOA board had an emergency meeting. Every neighbor received an official letter apologizing for recent incidents involving an overzealous community member. But that wasn't the end. One of my friends who runs a small local blog heard about what happened, with my permission. He wrote an article about the HOA gone wild. I sent him the video, blurred. Karen's face, of course, just to show what really went down. Within a week, it blew up online. People couldn't believe it. The video of a woman breaking into her neighbor's garage for HOA inspection sparked outrage and laughter. Comments poured in. "She really thought she was the law. That's not an HOA, that's a dictatorship." Imagine being this nosy. It spread fast enough that local news stations picked it up. Reporters parked near our street one morning, interviewing residents about HOA abuse of power. By that afternoon, Karen's house was dark. Curtains closed. No sign of her car. Rumor had it she'd resigned from the HOA and left town to visit family indefinitely. The HOA board officially banned her from any future involvement, and the president personally apologized to me. They even offered to waive my yearly HOA dues for the trouble. I accepted the apology, not because I needed free dues, but because it was proof that standing up to bullies like Karen actually works. A few weeks later, as I worked on my Mustang in the now peaceful garage, I glanced at the camera above the door. Its red light blinked quietly. It had caught the truth and saved me from months of harassment. I smiled, wiping grease from my hands. "Guess the cameras paid for themselves," I muttered. From that day on, everyone in Maplewood estates kept their garages locked and their cameras rolling.